Alright, you and I are about to dive into the story of humanity's ultimate weapon, born 100 million years ago during our final hour. Faced with the end, he chose to enter a sleep pod and wait for a world that no longer existed. It all started when pollution went off the rails, creating mutated monsters with regenerative powers that defied logic. Not even nuclear strikes could put these things down for good. With their backs against the wall, humans turned to experiments, turning him into the final weapon designed specifically to slaughter those beasts. He scoured the globe, fighting to protect the few people left on Earth. He tried everything to save them before they were devoured, but in the end, he just wasn't fast enough. With no one left to save, he stumbled upon humanity's final invention, nano-machines. These tiny machines could strip monsters of their healing powers and maybe, just maybe, bring the planet back to life. He asked the last living doctor to seal him away in that pod, because at that point, the only thing humanity had left was a desperate hope for the future. 100 million years passed in a heartbeat, and those nanomachines completely reshaped the Earth into a brand new paradise. Then, a little girl accidentally wandered into his tomb and tripped the awakening sequence. Suddenly, 3 kids with animal features came sprinting in, a monster hot on their heels. Now watch this. Just as they're about to lose all hope, a massive beam of light erupts from the darkness behind them. One shot. It blows the monster's head clean off, leaving the kids frozen in total shock. He steps out of the pod, raw magic power still flickering in his palm. He finds the old doctor's storage box, and surprisingly, everything is exactly where it should be. Looking at the screen, reality finally hits him. He really has been asleep for 100 million years. Most of the files are trashed, but this lab is perfect. It's actually kind of insane that it survived this long. Then, he spots the nano-machine injector sitting right there beside him. He realizes the entire atmosphere is saturated with nanos, keeping everything intact. Then he turns toward the doctor's last message, the cube. But while he's lost in thought, he catches the kids staring and realizes he's completely naked. He quickly throws on his old gear for the first time in ages. With the kids leading the way, he finally steps out of the lab. He stares at the massive mountains and rivers, seeing a world that's been reborn over 100 million years. As he's soaking it in, the little girl tugs his sleeve and calls him a guardian god. She points forward, and as they move, he starts really looking at these children. Humans were supposed to be extinct 100 million years ago. These are clearly a new species, either evolved to look human or shaped by those nanomachines in the air. Surprisingly, they're still using the ancient language from his time. That's probably the nanos at work too. The girl tells him her name is Phil. The koala kid is Donbo, and the girl with the cat ears is Zanti. He tells them his name is Kim Du Jin, but honestly, they couldn't care less. Stick with me, we're about to see just how desperate these kids really are. They reach the village, but it's already a nightmare of smoke and fire. Zanti breaks down, charging into the flames to find her family. Kim Du Jin stays back, analyzing the scene with a soldier's eye. Everything is built from wood and basic materials. This civilization is barely at the starting line. They push inside and find a corruptor monster tearing through the villagers. Phil screams for her grandma, while the old woman tries to hold the beast off, yelling for the kids to run. Back in his day, they called these things corruptors. The name hasn't changed, but the power has. He senses a strange surge of magic coming from Phil herself. He decides it's time to test a theory he's been working on. In a blur, he's in front of the beast, shattering its attack with a single, brutal kick. He pulls the grandmother to safety. Trust me, we're about to see this ancient weapon finally cut loose. Alright, you and I are about to see if a supposedly inferior human can actually be a god. Before leaving, Kim Du Jin tells Phil to keep going, and suddenly, a crimson flame ignites in her palm. That fireball streaks through the air, slamming into the monster's flesh exactly as Kim Du Jin predicted. The nanomachines are successfully shutting down the creature's regeneration, but something about this feels completely wrong to him. How could a little girl possibly manipulate nanomachines just floating in the air? According to every law of logic, only humans with heavy body modifications should have that kind of control. Curious, he asks the grandmother if everyone in this timeline can just throw fireballs around. She explains that only 4 people in the village possess this divine power. It turns out, their sacred gift is just the ability to command nanomachines. But honestly, none of that matters because the village is already doomed. That monster from earlier was just a newly hatched larva. The true main body, they have zero chance of defeating it. Now pay attention here because just as a swarm of those larvae begins to flood in, a new voice cuts through the chaos. An arrogant man tells the old woman to stop falling apart, claiming he'll slaughter the corruptors himself. He's already cleared the village and sent the others to the shelter, so he's ready for war. Phil quickly confesses to her father that she entered the sealed door, leaving her grandmother completely breathless with shock. She entered the forbidden zone where the village's guardian god has supposedly been sleeping for centuries. As Saras hears that this man might be their savior, he gives Kim Du Jin a long, doubtful look. To him, this guy doesn't look like a god. He looks like a weak, inferior species from a lower class. One look at his ears proves he doesn't have a single drop of animal power in him. Saris is convinced the kids just got the wrong idea, and this stranger simply stumbled into the situation. Even after hearing the man killed a corruptor, Saris just sneers. It was only a larva, after all. Kim Du Jin's temper flares at the insults. Saris snaps that this is their village's problem to solve. He tells the low-born outsider to stay out of the way while he goes to execute the giant corruptor. Just as Kim Du Jin turns to leave, the grandmother begs him to escort the children to safety first. She intends to join Saris and put her life on the line against that massive monster. But Kim Du Jin refuses instantly. He has his own pride as a warrior to maintain. There's no way he's letting someone call him inferior and then go die right in front of his eyes. Before long, Saris reaches the giant corruptor, boasting that he's a future holy knight carrying the nation's destiny. Violent arcs of electricity begin to crackle and surge from his weapon, lighting up the area. In a flash, he rockets forward like a lightning bolt, charging straight at the heart of the beast. The beast reacts by lifting its massive tails from the water, dropping a strange monster egg onto the ground. The moment it hits, it hatches into a juvenile corruptor, blocking his path with a screech. But fodder of that level isn't nearly enough to slow down a man like Saris. He pushes through, launching himself high into the air to deliver a single, lethal strike to the main body. His spear slashes deep across the monster's face with a devastating impact. You and I both saw this coming, didn't we? The wound heals instantly, leaving Saris frozen in total disbelief. He stares in shock, completely unable to process how its regeneration could be that fast. While he's paralyzed by fear, the monster's massive claw comes crashing down, aimed right for his head. But the agony never comes. Instead, Kim Du Jin appears, blocking the strike with a one-handed barrier like it's nothing. Saris can't believe it. The man he called an inferior creature just saved his life with effortless power. Before he can even breathe, another juvenile monster bursts out of the water to attack. Kim Du Jin doesn't even flinch. He simply pulls one hand out of his pocket. With a casual look, he snaps his fingers toward the approaching beast. That single snap releases a shockwave that obliterates the larva's body, leaving Saris absolutely speechless. Right then, the village reinforcements arrive on the scene, ready to join the fight. They freeze in their tracks, watching in awe as this stranger stops a mountain-sized monster with just one hand. So what do you and I think? As the monster's power surges, Kim Du Jin suggests they retreat for now. Alright, you and I are jumping into the action as he grabs Saris and retreats at the same time. A split second later, the monster's strike hammers the water right where they stood just moments ago. Totally confused, Saris asks why a powerhouse like Kim Du Jin would even bother backing away from them. Du Jin calmly explains that these things just regenerate instantly. To shut them down, you need nano-machines to suppress that healing factor. But honestly, Saris has zero clue what a nano-machine even is. Du Jin keeps it simple, telling him these are what Sarus calls divine power. He tells him his attacks were strong, but just didn't go deep enough to stop the regeneration. After hearing that explanation, Saris is floored. He starts wondering if this man standing before him really is some kind of guardian. Du Jin's voice stays flat. He says he doesn't remember becoming a god, but he has a message to deliver. You claimed this was just your village's problem, didn't you? But the truth is, this was never just on you. These monsters are remnants of our own human stupidity. Since I once lived 100 million years ago, I'm the one who has to finish this. Saris clearly barely understands him, but he still has to ask, can you actually pull this off? Now pay attention, because a massive shockwave erupts and blasts the monster in front of them into absolutely nothing. That strike was so overwhelming, it looked like it punched straight through the planet and into outer space. When the smoke clears, all that's left on the ground is shattered debris from humanity's once ultimate weapon. Du Jin handles these monsters with ease. Meanwhile, a woman is hiding in the tall grass, watching from a distance. Peering through a telescope, she sees the whole display and is left completely speechless by his power. What was that? Not even the capital's Holy Knight commander could pull off something that insane. She spins around, hyped up and ready to race back to the capital to report what she saw. After settling everything, Kim Du Jin heads out alone and pulls out the information cube the doctor left for him. Inside were all the messages the doctor recorded while Kim was in his long slumber. The recording starts. If you're seeing this, I'm probably long gone from this world. Based on my math, the global environment should have improved massively by now. You and I know threats don't just vanish. Even Kim Du Jin is shocked that the corruptors will never truly disappear. The doctor's accuracy is chilling. He first sensed that something was wrong, roughly 1,000 years after Kim Du Jin entered his sleep. He'd been using a sleep pod himself just to wake up and see how the world changed. As nature healed, the number of corruptors actually started to drop, just as planned. But then the doctor's nightmare came true. As the world evolved, the corruptors began to change right along with it. No one knew what they would ultimately become, but one thing was certain: they would become a threat again. All the doctor could do was slightly adjust the forms of these newly born lives. giving them the ability to fight back against the corruptors. And most importantly, he left a special gift of power, specifically for Kim Du Jin. Hearing that, Du Jin reaches into his pocket. That gift was the nano-injector the doctor had tucked away for him. Once he takes the shot, the nano-machines will basically download the manual on how to use his power. After his body is modified, this becomes a power only Kim Du Jin can use because he has 100% compatibility with the machines. Through total transformation, these nano-machines can help him manifest any object he can imagine. So, Kim Du Jin tries imagining a sharp knife in his mind. Sure enough, just as the doctor had said, the ability was extremely easy to use. The doctor also tells Kim Du Jin that he's hidden items capable of boosting his energy in research labs all across the globe. He did this to keep them safe from the fully evolved corruptors who would surely destroy them. What really shocks Du Jin is the doctor's wish. He wants Kim to live for himself and enjoy the world in this distant future. The doctor didn't know how dangerous the corruptors would eventually become. Even so, he believed this world would be better than the old one. He truly wanted Kim to be happy. "I can't stay by your side anymore, so I'm leaving this world to you." As those words end, the cube's energy runs dry, making it clear the doctor died somewhere in those endless years. "You and I won't forget this." Right then, Phil comes running toward Kim Du Jin with her friends, yelling that this is where he had been hiding. "Everyone has been looking for you. Stick with me here." These two kids grab Kim Du Jin's hand, insisting the party cannot start until our hero finally arrives. But Du Jin is focused on the key around Phil's neck. It looks like a lab access pass. He has to ask where she found it. She explains that long ago, a legendary figure entrusted that very pendant to her ancestors. It is a sacred charm passed down for generations. Supposedly, as long as they have it, their guardian god will protect them from danger. Du Jin finally puts the pieces together. That key is exactly how Phil was able to slip into the secret laboratory. It looks like he owes these people a massive favor. Meanwhile, bonfires light up the night sky as the village erupts into a lively, festive atmosphere. They are celebrating the death of the monster that nearly ended them. When the kids drag Du Jin into the light, every eye turns his way. You and I can see it no matter how they look at him. He still seems like some inferior species. Just as the whispers and judging looks start to spread through the crowd, Sar steps forward with a look of pure stone. He is not about to let anyone disrespect the hero who saved their lives. After roughing up a few idiots who talk trash, he roars out for the entire village to hear. He tells them that even if they did not see it, Du Jin is their guardian god. Phil just scoffs at Sar's change of heart. Then, Phil's grandmother brings her son forward to offer Kim Du Jin a deep, solemn thank you. She calls him an honored god and admits the village would be gone without him. They desperately want to pay him back. Du Jin tells them not to sweat it. To him, it was barely an effort, plus, he wants information more than a physical reward. Hearing that, the grandmother suggests he should travel straight to the royal capital. That is where the king who rules the entire nation of Kosha resides. Since people from every corner of the land gather there, they will definitely have the answers he is looking for. The locals often go there to sell silk. Even though it is a dangerous trek, it should be a breeze for a guardian god. Phil offers to be his guide, since she actually has some business to take care of in the capital herself. The grandmother adds that Phil can use divine power, something Du Jin has probably already noticed. Apparently, there is a specialized academy in the capital that can help her strengthen those unique abilities. Du Jin enjoys a peaceful night of rest. The next morning, the air is so crisp and fresh he cannot help but smile. He never thought he would get to see a beautiful, calm scene like this ever again. He wishes the doctor could have witnessed this, too. But then, Zandy walks in with some clothes while Du Jin is totally distracted. "Okay, you and I know this is awkward." Du Jin just woke up and is standing there with absolutely nothing on. Once he is finally dressed and ready, Du Jin and Phil prepare to head out. Before they leave, the grandmother makes sure to remind Phil to take her duties as a guide very seriously. Seeing Phil get to go on an adventure with the legend himself makes Sar look incredibly jealous. Du Jin tells him he did a great job yesterday. If he keeps training hard, Du Jin will be waiting for him at the capital. That lights a fire under Sar. He shouts that he will study and train until he can find his hero again. With everything settled, Kim Du Jin and Phil wave one last goodbye to the villagers and start their journey. Along the road, Du Jin takes in the changing landscape. As the sun begins to set, the two of them find a spot to rest. After a full day of walking, Phil estimates it will take about 4 more days to reach their destination. While they eat, Phil asks the big question, why is he so obsessed with learning about the state of this world? He just tells her it is a secret that children are not allowed to know yet. He is thinking about how the doctor said the corruptors would never truly stay gone. Just as predicted, corruptors exist in this timeline. Usually, they only show up in places filled with heavy pollution. But this village is pristine. The air is clean, yet those monsters still appeared out of nowhere. That means something massive has been changing over the centuries. At the very least, some people in this era are still living free from the rule of the corruptors. First, He has to investigate how people today deal with corruptors. Stick with me, because we are about to find out the truth together. Just then, several strangers on horseback suddenly ride up to them. All right. You and I are diving back in as a group of armored knights with beast-like ears stops our main character's party. Kim Du Jin demands to know who they are, and the leader identifies them as the 7th unit of the Royal Holy Knights. The man is Captain Orton. Kim Du Jin is honestly surprised that an order of Holy Knights even exists in this timeline. Suddenly, a female knight screams at them to stand up while speaking to her captain, but Orton quickly shuts her down. Orton insists it is unnecessary and actually gets off his horse to show some respect to the travelers. He apologizes for his initial rudeness and asks if they would be open to a quick conversation. He starts with the basics, asking where they are from and exactly where they are headed. Phil immediately speaks up, telling the knights they are from Konoha village and traveling toward the royal capital. The female knight jumps down in total disbelief, screaming that Konoha village has absolutely no record of any inferior species being born within its sacred borders before. She calls them liars, leaving Kim Du Jin quite shocked. This world is more organized than he thought if they actually keep detailed birth records. Before she can get aggressive, the captain stops her, pointing out that the girl is wearing high-quality mooring cloth. That specific fabric is a Konoha specialty and is incredibly rare to find on the market, especially for children. Because of this, he believes the girl's story about being from Konoha village is true. Trust me, this is where the vibe shifts. Orton draws his sword, demanding to know where Kim Du Jin really came from. He explains that thieves have been using children lately to lure in unsuspecting travelers and steal their goods. He suspects Kim Du Jin is just a criminal in disguise, using Phil as a cover for his crimes. Phil screams at him to stop, declaring that her guardian god is a good person who saved her. She starts gathering powerful magic in her palm, but before she can even react, the Holy Knights have her completely surrounded and defenseless. The captain is impressed, noting that he didn't expect a little girl like her to possess such divine power. Kim Du Jin watches silently, analyzing the Holy Knights and realizing their power is actually quite impressive. Orton turns back to our main character, demanding an answer about his origins one more time. He threatens to cut Kim Du Jin into pieces, forcing him to just say he is from Konoha village too. The knight surprisingly sheathes his blade and offers a formal apology for his aggressive behavior. He asks Phil to confirm the truth, and she tells him that the villagers worship Kim Du Jin as a god. With the misunderstanding cleared up, the captain climbs back onto his horse and prepares to lead his unit away from the camp. He tells them to seek him out if they run into any trouble at the royal capital, hoping they can eventually move past this very tense first meeting. As the group rides away, the red-haired knight asks her captain why he decided to let such a highly suspicious inferior species go without further questioning. The Holy Knight just gives a calm response. Now, you and I need to hear this. Orton calmly wonders aloud which one of them was actually the inferior species during that entire tense and strange encounter. The other knight agrees, noting that the power gap between them was actually massive. He admits he secretly launched 3 separate attacks at Kim Du Jin, but the man neutralized every single blow without even making it obvious to anyone else. The woman is stunned, asking if he actually used his sacred power. Orton nods, explaining that while he was supposedly focusing on the girl, the spirits refused to lend him any power to use against Kim Du Jin. This means Kim Du Jin has an unbelievable amount of basic sacred power. He notes that the only person capable of such a feat is their own commander-in-chief. They decide to keep a very close eye on him for now, since he doesn't seem like he will be an immediate threat to the kingdom. Right now, they need to get back to the royal capital as fast as possible. They hope that if he eventually becomes an ally, he might be the one key to solving the massive and terrifying problem currently facing their entire country right now. The next morning, Kim Du Jin asks Phil if all the knights in this empire are that strong. Phil clarifies that they were elites, and definitely not your average soldiers. Only the best of the best are chosen to become holy knights, and their speed when using divine power is on a completely different level compared to hers. She explains that divine power is essentially just borrowing strength from the spirits to assist you. Kim Du Jin finally gets it. These people are mistaking nano-machines for magical spirits. You and I just realized this world is way behind in science, but that inferior species label still really bothers him. Alright, you and I are diving into a world where humanity has split into some truly bizarre forms. We are talking fish people, insect types, you name it. This era has it. Back in the day, livable land was so scarce that everyone had to evolve just to survive their specific regions. This logic catches Kim Du Jin completely off guard. He never imagined humans would force themselves to change their very biology just to keep breathing. Does this mean actual human survivors from 100 million years ago eventually evolved into the bizarre people of this current era? Apparently, being an inferior species just means you are a human who stayed exactly the same. Next to these specialized mutants, regular humans are seen as weak and hopelessly outdated. What shocks Kim Du Jin even more is hearing that these so-called inferiors are sold as slaves, even though there is barely any real difference between them. A single biological trait determines your entire worth. Even Phil thinks the whole system is messed up. This world has officially lost its mind. Kim Du Jin is honestly surprised to hear Phil sound so rational. He did not expect her to have such a strong moral compass. But suddenly, a mysterious girl collapses on the road right in front of them. She looks absolutely spent, crashing hard onto the dirt without a single word. It is obvious she has been through pure hell. Looking at her ears, they match Kim Du Jin's perfectly, which means she is just another targeted inferior species. She is covered in deep wounds. Her condition looks dangerously critical. Kim Du Jin decides to patch her up first and save the questions for later. But the second he steps closer, she snaps awake and warns him to stay exactly where he is. Now, pay attention, this is where the betrayal hits. She pins a dagger to Phil's throat, threatening to kill the kid if he moves a muscle. It was a setup all along. She clearly has backup hiding somewhere nearby in the shadows. To his surprise, there really is a squad of invisible men lurking silently behind them, just like he predicted. The girl was just a puppet for these guys, who are rocking some high-tech optical camouflage. Their gear uses nano-machines to mimic the surroundings, making their bodies appear almost entirely transparent. The stealth breaks if they move too fast, but these professionals know exactly how to stay hidden. One guy puts a blade to Kim Du Jin's face, demanding to know why a lowly inferior is wearing such expensive clothes. Meanwhile, Phil is absolutely losing it. She is clearly itching to use her special abilities to save Kim Du Jin from these thugs. Kim Du Jin immediately stops her. He knows that kind of devastating power shouldn't be wasted on people like this. These goons had no idea they were holding a girl with literal sacred power. Another bandit turns to Kim Du Jin, mockingly asking if he can use that holy energy as well. Before he can even reply, a boot sends him to the dirt. Why bother asking? A piece of trash like you could never touch sacred power. The bandit leader barks a warning. Do not damage the merchandise. He is strictly business. This guy might not be worth much, but cash is cash. These are definitely the bandits the Holy Knights warned about. If they don't do something fast, both Kim Du Jin and Phil are headed straight for the slave block. When Phil finally opens her eyes, she realizes she and Kim Du Jin are trapped behind heavy iron bars. They are not alone. Plenty of others are locked up here too. It looks like they have been dragged straight into the bandits' main base. Phil looks over at Kim Du Jin, totally confused as to why he is sitting there in his underwear. You and I know he has style, but the bandits just saw dollar signs and stripped his rare outfit right off him. At least he still has his underwear. Phil tells him he is being way too chill right now. Kim Du Jin just shrugs, clothes are not really his priority. He spent most of his life without clothes anyway. But Phil still cannot wrap her head around why he didn't just fight back. With his insane power, he could have wiped the floor with those guys in seconds. Just then, the same girl from the road walks in with the bandits, carrying a tray of miserable-looking food. She quietly mutters that she doesn't expect them to ever forgive her. Honestly, she never thought she would deserve mercy from the very start. Hearing her voice, Kim Du Jin realizes the truth. This girl was probably forced into this betrayal against her will. Real villains don't lose sleep over being hated. They certainly don't stand around begging for a clean conscience. Kim Du Jin slowly stands up and gets a good stretch in. Then, he calmly grips the bars of the cage. Boom! He rips the cage apart like it is made of paper. He only played along because he was waiting for this girl to show up. If she is being controlled, someone she loves must be here too. You and I are about to see some serious payback. Let's dive in. One look at her reaction and Kim Du Jin knew he was right. Sure, she tried to trick him, but those injuries were the real deal. No criminal would actually butcher their own body just to pull off a scam. She was being forced to serve these bandits. They clearly had something on her, some kind of leverage. After a heavy silence, she finally spoke up, her voice shaking with every single word. Her little brother was being held captive. After the bandits attacked her parents, she had no choice but to do whatever it took to protect him. If she didn't obey their every command, her brother would be sold off as a slave. Hearing her story triggered a deep rage in Kim Du Jin, an anger he hadn't felt in countless years. Seeing that fire in his eyes, Phil wondered if he'd gotten captured on purpose just to save her. Not exactly. That was just step one. Bandits like this? If even one survives, they'll just spread their rot somewhere else. Kim Du Jin kicked the door wide open. When you're dealing with trash like this, you don't just stop them, you uproot them and wipe them out forever. It didn't take long. He started tearing through the guards like they were made of paper. He snatched one guy up and launched him like a projectile at two others blocking the hallway. Watch this. Before they can even blink, he's in their faces, delivering strikes so fast they can't even dream of fighting back. Meanwhile, deep inside the dungeon, the other captives could hear the absolute chaos erupting right outside. The blue-haired girl turned to Phil, desperate to know who this guy was and how he was so powerful. Phil just gave it to her straight. Kim Du Jin is the guardian god of Koha village. Leave it to him. They were finally going to make it out. Still, the girl couldn't shake her fear once she remembered how strong the bandit leader actually was. By then, Kim Du Jin had already reached the boss's inner sanctum. Under the leader's horrified gaze, he walked in casually carrying the head of a subordinate in his bare hand. The leader completely panicked. He started babbling, offering to hand over every single slave if it meant saving his own skin. He gestured wildly toward the cells, claiming all the prisoners were right there for the taking. He even added that Kim Du Jin would really take a liking to the blue-haired boy. Now, stick with me here. Kim Du Jin had seen trash like this since he was a kid 100 million years ago. He used to pray for justice, but he eventually realized that in a world this broken, scum like this just keeps multiplying like a virus. A normal life would have been the dream, but back then, the world he lived in never gave him that kind of luxury. Even as a young child, his power was already something completely out of this world. He spent his youth slaughtering filth like this until a certain doctor finally arrived, showing him how to actually look at the world with human eyes again. From that moment on, protecting the humans left in this world became his entire reason for living. Back in the present, the bandit leader was completely frozen in shock. He couldn't grasp why his mind magic wasn't working. Then the terrifying truth hit him. Kim Du Jin's power was leagues above his own. Seeing the coward cringing in the corner instead of running, Kim Du Jin mocked him for being such a low-tier villain. A real professional would have been halfway out the door by now, looking for an opening to escape. But guys like him always make the same mistake: they underestimate their opponent until it's far too late. It's only after reality hits them like a freight train that they start making those pathetic, begging faces. The leader suddenly spotted a lifeline and lunged toward the wall, yanking down a hidden switch tucked right behind the door. As the secret chamber ground open, he grinned like a madman, convinced he'd already snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. Kim Du Jin looked closer and saw that a massive, hulking corruptor had been caged inside the room. That actually caught him off guard. How did a weakling like this manage to capture a monster like that? This was the boss's ultimate trump card, his last desperate hope for survival. In a flash, the corruptor lunged forward, swinging its massive hand. Seeing the blow coming, Kim Du Jin just crossed his arms and took the entire impact head-on. The bandit leader's jaw dropped. He couldn't wrap his head around how a mere human could block a corruptor. Kim Du Jin just casually explained that he was born with a superhuman body. His muscle density was leagues beyond any normal human. Before the monster could react, Kim Du Jin delivered a kick that sent the corruptor flying. Suddenly, a brilliant blue light erupted from his hand. Against an invader, he had zero intention of playing nice. He unleashed a massive blast of divine power. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. Alright, let's watch together as Kim Du Jin finishes this absolute cleanup. The bandit leader was in pure shock, never imagining an inferior species could wield divine power like that. Then, Kim Du Jin stares him down and asks calmly, "So, what is your next move?" Hearing that, the leader starts sobbing, begging Kim Du Jin to spare his pathetic life. But he gets a fist for an answer, because sinners like him don't get mercy. Once the boss is down, our main character finally puts his clothes back on. He turns to the slaves locked in cages, telling them to just wait until he is finished. He is going to save every last one, but first, he needs concrete evidence of these crimes. Otherwise, this whole raid was for nothing. Luckily, he soon stumbles upon a very suspicious document. There is just one problem: he still has not learned how to read this world's written language yet. Looks like he will have to find himself a teacher once things finally quiet down. What really puzzles him, though, is how these guys even manage to control a corruptor. He places his hand on the remains, trying to link up with the nano-machines still drifting nearby. If there is any footage from the past week, it should still be saved in the system. Now pay attention, because here is something interesting. Someone else was pulling the strings. Once the dust settles, Phil calls the guild to arrest the bandits. As for the blue-haired girl, she is finally reunited with the brother she risked everything for. After a few words, she brings her brother over and gives Kim Du Jin a truly heartfelt thanks. Phil points out the man with goat horns, identifying him as the local guildmaster. The guildmaster also spots Kim Du Jin, who clearly looks out of place. He walks over, asking if our hero was the one who handled this mess. After a quick nod, the master immediately thanks him, stunned that someone from an inferior species took them all down without an injury. As for this bandit group, they have had reports for years, but the guild did not have the authority to act on their own. These criminal matters usually have to be handled by officials loyal to the king. You and I both saw that coming, right? They are forced to report everything straight to the king. Kim Du Jin seriously doubts that will work. To him, the lord is like a mayor from 100 million years ago, while the guild is the police. He then hands over the suspicious documents he found to the guildmaster. The master is shocked. It is a full list of people secretly trading with the bandits. They can arrest everyone here. But since the lord is not listed, he might not be the mastermind. Kim Du Jin asks what becomes of the freed slaves. The master explains they will escort anyone home if they can confirm their identities. But for everyone else, there really is not much the guild can do for them. Our main character asks about the orphans, do they at least have a shelter? There is no shelter, but the guild might be able to find them work. However, being an inferior species means finding a job will be nearly impossible. Kim Du Jin is left speechless. He did not expect job hunting to involve this much discrimination. Just then, he has a sudden realization. He asks the kids if they would be willing to work if he found them a safe place. He is thinking of the Holy Knight from before. The man told him that if he ever needed help, he should reach out. If his guess is right, that should be a decent place for them. Meanwhile, Holy Knight Orton arrives at the royal estate, but suddenly feels a strange, cold chill. He brushes it off, thinking he might just be catching a common cold. He dismounts and officially declares that their long expedition is finally over. Servants are already waiting for him inside. And trust me, you and I know that woman's gloomy stare means trouble is coming. Meanwhile, the butler rushed over to give Orton an urgent report on the recent situation. After listening, Orton felt a massive headache. Things were looking even worse than he had originally imagined. Corruptors were appearing even in the royal capital now. Orton had no idea where they came from, but it seemed likely that someone was releasing them on purpose. If that was the case, all signs pointed to the one place that keeps everyone out, Hannisk Academy. Stick with me, Orton needs to find a new ally immediately. 3 days after the bandits were suppressed, Kim Du Jin set off for the royal capital with the rest of the crew. Bull was still anxious. She wondered if the capital would even welcome an inferior species like her. Kim Du Jin told her not to worry. Once they arrived, she could study and learn just like anyone else. That got Bull excited for her new life. Suddenly, Phil pointed ahead. They had finally reached their destination. As Kim Du Jin stepped forward, he realized that the royal capital was actually quite enormous. The city was packed with unique buildings where people of all different races lived together in total harmony. Bull and her younger brother had never seen such a lively scene before. Phil told Kim Du Jin that almost everything in the capital depended on imports. While they talked, Kim Du Jin spotted 2 people walking by with strange, insect-like features. Nearby, he even saw people who looked like merfolk. This place was definitely as diverse as they say. When Kim Du Jin asked, Phil told him that registration for the academy would not start until next week, so they had plenty of time. But as they walked away, a mysterious woman followed close behind, eavesdropping on every word they said. She could not believe these inferior species actually had the nerve to apply for Hannisk Academy. Back at the hotel, Kim Du Jin started thinking, maybe he should investigate these corruptors here first. After all, someone was already trying to weaponize these monsters for their own twisted schemes. Corruptors were a massive threat. Kim Du Jin could not just stand by and watch. He would not let the same tragedy happen again. Next, Kim Du Jin asked Phil where he could go to dig up some local information. Phil pointed him toward the capital's massive library, where countless records and ancient archives were stored. Kim Du Jin headed for the library, hoping to find the locations of the research labs the doctor had left behind. Pay attention here. When he gets to the library, the admin tells him he cannot enter. Only academy students and nobles are allowed. That was a problem. Technically, Kim Du Jin was basically illiterate in this time period. He had been studying the local written language, but he was still a long way from being fluent. While he was trying to figure out a plan, 2 shady-looking guys suddenly appeared behind him. Their loud, deliberate shouting finally caught his attention. Kim Du Jin turned around just in time to see a fist flying straight at his face. Without breaking a sweat, he simply raised his hand and blocked it. Blocking it was effortless, but he was annoyed. These guys had not even said a single word before trying to punch him. The guy broke free from Kim Du Jin's grip and fired a burst of divine power into the sky. The massive blast caught everyone's eye immediately. Even Bull was shocked by the sudden display. You and I saw that coming, right? Kim Du Jin stays cool and coldly asks them what the hell they think they are doing. Their reason? They just look down on inferior species like him. Kim Du Jin stepped forward and grabbed the man's wrist. In an instant, he slammed the man hard onto the ground. The other man fired his divine power, but Kim Du Jin blocked the attack and simply erased it. Kim Du Jin asked coldly, with strength that pathetic, "You think you have the right to mock anyone?" Just then, a loud shout stopped Kim Du Jin from his next move. "You are really disturbing my rest. You are making a scene. You inferior species dare cause trouble in public? I will throw you in the dungeon." Kim Du Jin was speechless. This guy did not even understand what had happened, yet he was already jumping to conclusions. You just got to the capital and you were already causing an uproar? How bold. Once an inferior species, always an inferior species. You clearly started this. But then, the rabbit-eared girl behind him finally decided to speak up. "I saw everything. Those 2 men attacked first. This was nothing but self-defense." She looked at the 2 men and asked, "You look familiar. Are you students from Hannisk Academy? Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. All right." You and I are diving back in as she approaches Kim Du Jin to apologize. He's not looking for a fight, just shocked that Holy Knights actually handle patrols too. He'd always figured that was work for the local guilds. She clarifies that the capital is massive, so they're just keeping the peace. Still, she admits that Kim Du Jin's power is on a completely different level than she expected. Those academy students weren't weaklings, yet he wiped the floor with them effortlessly. She tells him goodbye, warning him not to cause trouble in the city, but Kim Du Jin stops her before she can walk away. Since she's being nice, he asks for a favor. She turns back, wondering if he needs a lift somewhere. With her leading the way, Kim Du Jin soon finds himself at the headquarters for the Holy Knights. He looks at the knight and asks for a job for his people. After all, the man said he could come find him if he ever needed help, even if he's brought a few more guests than originally planned. Kim Du Jin explains that he ran into the bandits the knight warned him about and rescued the innocent people they had locked up in their camp. As for the bandits themselves, he already crushed them and handed them over to the guild. The knight is stunned that Kim Du Jin cleared the whole gang alone. Du Jin continues, explaining that these people have no family left and are treated like trash in this era. Because of that, he wants to find them a safe place to work and live. The knight argues that just because he saved them doesn't mean Du Jin is responsible for their entire future. It's a heavy burden to carry. Kim Du Jin looks him dead in the eye and says he never does anything half-heartedly. Since he took the step to save them, he'll protect them until the very end. Impressed by his resolve, the Holy Knight agrees to hire them as maids. But there's a catch: he needs Kim Du Jin to take on a teaching job. Soon, Bull and the others are in uniform. Surprisingly, the servant outfits actually look pretty good on them. Before leaving, the knight tells the butler to treat them fairly and not to discriminate just because they're seen as an inferior species. With everything settled, Kim Du Jin waves goodbye to the two little ones. As they walk, Du Jin asks the knight if there's a deeper reason behind this teaching request. The knight admits he doesn't know Du Jin's past, but he's choosing to believe he's a good man. That's why he's making this move. Now, pay attention, he needs Kim Du Jin to go undercover as a teacher at Hanesk Academy to stop a conspiracy. Factions are already fighting for supremacy, while the king lies gravely ill with almost no time left. Behind closed doors, a quiet war for the throne has already started. The problem is that people with zero right to the crown are plotting to seize power by any means necessary. They're even using corrupt magic and dragging innocent people into their bloody conflict. Kim Du Jin realizes that mysterious person isn't his only worry. Something this dangerous is lurking and operating right under their noses in the royal capital. They need to find where the enemy is hiding before things get even worse. Du Jin asks if the academy is the most suspicious spot, and Orton nods. A guide from the inside will meet him there. Orton introduces his younger sister, Miria, who is currently studying at the prestigious academy. Miria immediately scowls, asking if the mission they discussed is really being handed over to someone she calls an inferior species. Orton snaps at her in a stern voice to watch her tone. Miria won't back down, shouting that she might tolerate the girl, but she'll never accept this inferior creature as an equal. You and I can see how stubborn she is, and Kim Du Jin can only let out a helpless, tired sigh. She's talented, sure, but her prejudice is extreme. Orton explains that this isn't just about spying, it's a real job. Above all else, Kim Du Jin actually has to fulfill his duties as an instructor. Miria snorts, claiming someone from an inferior species could never handle being a teacher. She says it takes more than just raw power to teach. After she storms off, Orton apologizes for her rude behavior. Then Orton asks if it's true that Kim Du Jin is actually highly skilled in the art of mental magic. Du Jin asks which branch of mental magic he should teach, since he's an expert in all of them. Orton mentions the 4 basics: ice, fire, lightning, and of course, healing magic. He says handling 2 of those would be plenty, which leaves Kim Du Jin totally confused. Is this really all the mental magic they have in this era? Orton looks at him in shock. And that's where we leave it. If Kim Du Jin can use special magic, he's truly one of the elite few. It seems that those bandits were actually considered quite powerful in this era. Stick with me, you and I are about to see this man realize his strength could literally rewrite the history books. After settling the siblings into work, Kim Du Jin heads to Han's Academy with Orton. It happens to be the big day, the academy entrance exams. Under Orton's special arrangement, Phil enters the halls to begin her own test. Heading to the principal's office, the dean thanks Orton for his time. He knows the 7th unit is swamped, yet Orton is still here personally. Kim Du Jin is curious. What exactly is Unit 7? Orton explains that every year, a Holy Knight takes a turn as a special instructor. This year, it is finally his 7th unit's time to lead. Hearing that, Kim Du Jin starts to wonder. Can he really pull off being a teacher? While he is deep in thought, the dean suddenly stops and looks back at him with nothing but pure caution. But soon enough, they reach the principal's heavy office doors. The doors swing open. Inside, a group is already waiting, and the atmosphere is heavy. Orton steps inside first, greeting the principal with respect. The old man looks relieved to see his former student. It has been years since you graduated as a top student, Orton. I did not expect you to rise so high, so fast. Thanks for coming. But I have heard some troubling rumors lately. Between fighting the corruptors and getting tangled in national politics, your hands are clearly full. I get that you're busy and don't have any skilled subordinates left to spare for us right now, but that is no excuse to neglect this academy. Are you seriously suggesting this man should be one of our teachers? Now watch this part carefully. The hostility in the room becomes so thick you could cut it with a blade. Kim Du Jin sighs. Racial prejudice is still alive and well in this part of the world. Orton stays firm. Please, Principal, trust me. In terms of pure combat ability, he is more qualified than anyone in my entire unit. Silence falls over the room. If you are that confident, I cannot just say no. But you will have to convince my staff that your judgment is right. A teacher nearby points at Kim Du Jin, shouting in a voice full of rage. This academy is sacred. Letting an inferior species teach here is absolute madness and completely without precedent. This is not a job for his kind. Are you trying to spit on our legacy? The principal stays calm, turning to the others. Colonel Ga has spoken. What do you think about this, Mr. Rodman? This academy is full of noble kids. If an inferior species teaches here, the parents will riot, the principal notes. Honestly, I have those same concerns myself. But let us hear him out first. Kim Du Jin steps forward. Sorry for the late intro. I am from Konoha Village. I know what you are thinking, he should be sweating, but he is calm, and that is starting to freak everyone out. Kim Du Jin continues. I get your worries, but I only have one simple question for you. Am I unfit to be a teacher just because of the race I was born into? Or is it because you think I am weak? The opposition snaps back immediately. It is about ability. If someone has real talent, race does not matter. So, can you actually prove that you have that power? Sensing the opening, Orton suggests a solution. Principal, let us settle this with a sparring match right here, right now. Soon, everyone arrived at the Hands Academy mental magic practice field. Since it is exam day, the area is mostly empty. If Kim Du Jin loses, at least he will not have to deal with a massive crowd watching his public humiliation. The rules are straightforward. Since he is applying to be a mental magic instructor, he will fight using only that power. No more, no less. Word starts to spread, and students begin to gather. Even Orton is feeling a little bit of the pressure. He has never actually seen Kim Du Jin go all out before, and in this era, common sense says that an inferior species is just physically weak. Even if they have divine power, it is usually too small to make any real difference. Trust me, you and I are about to watch Kim Du Jin shatter every single expectation and rewrite the rules. Let the match begin. Alright, you and I are jumping in as Gata hurls a massive fireball at Kim Du Jin. He dodges as a violent explosion erupts. The students watching from the sidelines are left in total disbelief. This is their first time seeing a teacher unleash his true strength, and every eye is glued to the fight. Gata decides to double down and humiliate Kim Du Jin in front of the crowd. Suddenly, crackling lightning gathers at his fingertips. He fires it mercilessly right at Kim Du Jin. But Kim Du Jin doesn't even try to block it. He stays calm, dodging every strike while Gata just sneers at him like he is trash. Is running away the only thing you are good for? I might not be a holy knight, but I graduated top of my class at this academy. Someone like you could never compare to my level. Kim Du Jin just lets out a tired sigh. Honestly, he hates having to use his real power on ordinary humans, but he cannot keep playing tag forever. He slowly raises one hand, and a glowing magic circle instantly forms in his palm. It is time to show these arrogant people his true strength. Watch closely, because things are about to change. A shimmering, transparent barrier appears right in front of Gata. Suddenly, an invisible pressure slams Gata hard against the ground, pinning him down while he struggles to break free. The principal and dean watch in disbelief. Even Orton did not expect Kim Du Jin to completely overpower a veteran teacher this easily. Orton's younger sister watches from the distance, frozen by the main character's raw display of magic. Gata struggles to move, but the force is too much. Kim says calmly, I just tweaked the gravity around you a little. I am guessing this is a mysterious kind of magic you have never even seen before. It seems I have a lot to teach this academy. Not just the students, but the teachers, too. Kim Du Jin uses his gravity magic to crush the teacher, and the overwhelming force leaves Gata unable to even stand upright on his own. Seeing the fight is clearly over, Kim snaps his fingers and releases the crushing weight. Once he is up, Gata immediately starts screaming that Kim Du Jin used some kind of dirty trick to win. He has never seen mental magic like this, but the principal and dean have already seen enough to make a decision. Watching from afar, the princess concludes this must be some highly advanced form of mental magic. They consider themselves special because they evolved after receiving powerful spiritual blessings. Logic says a lower species should not have sacred power at all. So, who exactly is this guy? Everything she knew is shattered. You and I are jumping forward 1 week now. Hansk Academy does not just teach books, it is a brutal training ground for combat. The goal is to forge warriors who can kill invaders. Fall behind, and you are kicked out. But if you graduate, becoming a holy knight is actually possible. It all comes down to your own skill. The new class is huge, but they mostly look like commoners. Rias, you usually skip these ceremonies. I thought you weren't interested in common people. Are you not doing the same thing? If a famous noble shows up, you'd be the first one trying to make a new friend, right? Suddenly, a figure catches Rias's eye. Why is a lower species in the teacher seat? Because he is the new professor. Tell me, what do you really think of him? You already know my answer to that. Someone of his rank is not even worth my time. Kim Du Jin notices the nobles staring from above. This academy is massive. Investigating every corner of this place is going to take a long time. More than that, the way those students look at him is starting to get really annoying. He needs to crush their prejudice quickly, or his investigation is going to be a total nightmare. Alright everyone, we are resuming the mental magic lectures today. Let's get started. Don't let the new students pass you, and don't let your guard down. But I have a question. Why is this classroom so empty? Do none of you have the motivation to actually learn? He looks angry, but inside he's laughing. Who would actually want to learn from an inferior species? He deliberately spread the word that a lower species was teaching today just to keep students away. Then he asks Kim to introduce himself. Everyone, my name is Kim Du Jin. I will be teaching you mental magic. Trust me, it gets wild. Alright, you and I are jumping in as this red-haired guy questions if Kim Du Jin is even qualified. Kim just tells him that is for him to decide. If you do not think I am the real deal, do not come to my class. But listen up, there is one rule everyone here has to follow. Never use your powers recklessly. Mental magic is meant to stop the insane regeneration of those nasty corruptors, not for petty personal fights. See, that healing suppression does not actually work on humans. Against a person, it just causes normal, painful injuries. This power was forged to take down monsters. That is exactly why you must never abuse it for your own gain. The red-haired student just sneers, wondering what kind of lecture an inferior species could even give him. The kid mocks him, asking if he is just trying to avoid being compared to them by banning magic. Talk about a massive ego. Looking at those smug, hateful faces, Kim Du Jin realizes it is time to take these brats to school. So he makes a deal. If you think you are so tough, come at me. Hit me with everything you have got. If you can even scratch me, I will walk away and never come back. Immediately, the student conjures a massive lightning spear right in his hand. You said it, old man. Do not regret it. With a roar, he fires that bolt of lightning straight at Kim Du Jin's head. The attack hits with a deafening boom, slamming right into the front of the professor's desk. Clouds of dust and smoke fill the air. Seeing the direct hit, the red-haired kid looks absolutely thrilled. But pay attention here, because a sharp blade suddenly shoots out from the smoke faster than anyone can track. It slams into the wall behind him, missing his head by an inch. Kim just stands there, calmly telling the boy that if he'd wanted him dead, he would already be a corpse. Judging people by their looks is a fatal mistake. The students are stunned, wondering if that was also mental magic. Kim looks them over, asking if they still think he is an inferior species just because he looks human. But right now, I am stronger than every one of you combined. So, shouldn't you be calling me teacher? He turns to his attacker, asking if he actually knows how mental magic is activated. The student snaps back, claiming it is just visualization. You raise your divine power and imagine what you want. Then you just deliver that image to the spirits and make it happen. Simple, right? Kim shakes his head. Visualization matters, but it is not the true secret. Your mental power, or rather your nano-machines, need a very specific wavelength signal to actually trigger. Only once that signal hits do they release their true, hidden potential. There are 8 basic wavelengths, things like flame, lightning, wind, and ice. But the 4 you know are likely only those basic ones. Beyond that, you have gravity, light, and darkness, and even atmospheric pressure control. And then there is what I just used, which is spatial protection, a real game changer. Once you master these basics, you can shape energy into spears and throw them even faster than that kid just did. These are the absolute essentials. I know what you are thinking, and yeah, Professor Gao is just as stunned as we are. He cannot believe Kim can control all 8 types of magic. Just like that, Kim finishes his first lesson and walks out. Now, he needs to start digging into the secrets of this massive academy. But since he is a massive celebrity now, he cannot move without being watched. He will have to sneak into the forbidden places where students are never allowed to enter. Suddenly, he spots Raya standing right in front of him, blocking his path. She has clearly been waiting for him, but Kim does not have time for her games right now. He has way more urgent business to handle. But just as he tries to brush past her, Raya reaches out and stops him. You are no ordinary human, are you? Who exactly are you? No inferior species could ever master every single type of magic like that. Kim just keeps it cool, saying anyone can do it as long as they know how to switch between wavelengths. Raya frowns, telling him not to make it sound so easy. If everyone could do it, he would not be standing out this much. She suggests they go somewhere private where they can actually talk. Once they are finally alone, Raya turns to him and demands to know the truth about who he is. Kim has no choice but to tell her he is an ancient human who has been asleep for 100 million years. Raya immediately tells him to quit joking, so she asks what he was doing just 1 year ago. Kim's answer? I was doing many things. He tells her he used to be an agent. Since Raya has no clue what that means, he explains that it is someone who devotes their entire life to serving and protecting their country. He had fought against a countless number of powerful opponents. Even though those battles happened millions of years ago, Kim can still remember every single detail perfectly right in his mind. Those days were nostalgic, sure. But trust me, you and I are about to find out why he slept so long. Let's dive in. Kim Du Jin admits he failed because his own arrogance made him believe he could handle every single thing alone. In the end, he accomplished nothing and lost absolutely everything. He took this job hoping he could eventually count on her for help. But then he asks the obvious question, where exactly is she taking him right now? Soon, Reyes leads Kim Du Jin to a rundown old wooden building. Reyes claims it's just storage for teaching materials, and honestly, it definitely looks the part. But a small ornament on the shelf catches his eye. Reyes explains that she has been doing some investigating of her own lately. She found a weird, unnatural gap inside the building, big enough to hide an entire secret room. While she's talking, Kim Du Jin just reaches out and touches the statue on the bookshelf. Now watch this. The second he touches it, the shelf slides open, revealing a hidden staircase going deep underground. Reyes is stunned. How the heck did he even know there was a mechanism here? Kim explains that while the room is dusty, this one spot was strangely clean. Experience told him it was a switch. He's going down alone. He tells her to wait, but Reyes insists on coming along. If there's something down there, it's probably a dangerous corruptor. Kim warns her it's dangerous, but Reyes snaps back. Do not underestimate me. Her grades are top tier, and she swears her skills are just as good as her brother's. After she keeps pushing, Kim finally caves. He summons a light spell and leads her down into the darkness. Reyes is actually surprised by how easily Kim manipulates his light magic. The tunnel goes on forever, feeling like a creepy dungeon crawl where a monster could jump out at any second. Then, Reyes suddenly asks a question. Since you've been fighting villains all this time, do you have any suspects? Kim nods and admits he's already looking at Professor Rodman as a primary suspect. The man is quiet and rarely talks to anyone. He's always strangely guarded, almost like his mind is somewhere else entirely, even though he tries to hide it. Reyes thinks Professor Ga is the real shifty one, but Kim just shakes his head. That guy couldn't pull this off. His emotions are written all over his face. Deep down, he's probably a decent guy. Finally, they reach the very bottom of the basement. Okay, you and I are going to be just as shocked as Kim Du Jin is by what's down here. He didn't expect to find one of the doctor's secret research labs hidden right here. A massive door guarded by nano-machines stands before them. He never dreamed a vault this huge was buried under the academy. Reyes asks the big question. Do you think we can even open this? Kim explains you need a specific access key. Just like the one Phil from Konoha Village always wears around her neck. That means someone at this school must have inherited a key of their own. Kim uses his power and touches the door. Even after 100 million years, his clearance is still at the absolute highest level. His access works in every lab. Whoever has the physical key now is clearly trying to wreck the whole country. The doors slide open, and inside, giant corruptors are everywhere, trapped in heavy cages. The sight leaves Reyes completely terrified. She never imagined something this horrific was hiding under the school. She has to ask, though. How did he open the door without the access key he mentioned? Kim just calmly tells her again. It's because he's from 100 million years ago. That's why he knows the system. After seeing this, Reyes finally starts believing that his crazy story might actually be true. Kim starts getting a closer look at the corruptors locked inside those iron cages. It's weird. They're just sitting there blankly, not even trying to break out of their cages. There is absolutely no struggle. He remembers the one the bandits caught was acting the exact same way. Totally quiet. The real question is, how did they even get these massive monsters down here to begin with? Reyes whispers that her brother was right all along. This academy is definitely hiding something dark. She wants to wait for the mastermind, but Kim Du Jin immediately shuts that idea down. Their priority has to be sealing the school and taking out these corruptors. Reyes is confused. Is he really just going to let the mastermind walk away? Kim shakes his head and says that's not it. Trust me, you and I are about to see what happens when these monsters finally snap. Countless students were right above their heads, and any one of them could be the next victim. Even her brother would have made this choice. Alright, you and I are about to see if Kim Du Jin's bad feeling is actually right. His instincts in these situations were usually dead on, so he needed to investigate the laboratory further. As for Reyes, she had to contact the principal immediately and have the entire academy sealed off. Meanwhile, Gita walked through the academy while the students around him whispered and pointed, laughing about how the new teacher had crushed him. He was fuming, blaming that inferior species for ruining his reputation. To him, the fact Kim Du Jin mastered all 8 types of mental magic had to be cheating. Gita was dead set on exposing the lie. But right then, the principal suddenly appeared behind him. The principal told him to pipe down, since his erratic behavior would only terrify the other students. Then the principal asked if he had seen Professor Rodman, who hadn't been spotted since the ceremony ended. This was a problem. The principal needed to discuss the new students' course schedules with him. Suddenly, a surge of black magic power above the academy caught the principal's attention. At that exact moment, Rias was sprinting toward the surface to deliver her urgent warning. She was gasping for air by the time she reached the top, desperate to find her brother immediately. But Professor Rodman was already standing there. "Miss Rias, I am very curious. Now watch this part closely. As Kim Du Jin goes deeper, he finds a mysterious red sphere. It was pulsing steadily, almost as if it were a living, breathing organ. Kim Du Jin suspected the doctor was behind this. Then, a box on the instrument panel caught his eye. When he opened it, he found an information cube left by the doctor and a nano-machine injector. He immediately activated the information cube, hoping for clues that could explain the current situation. The doctor's recorded voice filled the room. "If you're seeing this, it means you've successfully reached this place. This laboratory is the one located closest to where you first woke up. But back then, we were building something legendary here, and its core function is sealed in those nanomachines." Confirmed, I really am a genius. So, what do you think this device actually does? Kim Du Jin was stunned. The doctor revealed it was a teleportation device. Now, the corruptors made sense. The reason there were so many corruptors in the lab was because they were being warped here through that device. After hearing the doctor's explanation, Kim Du Jin found the whole thing hard to believe. A teleportation device capable of connecting different spacetimes? That technology wasn't even possible 100 million years ago. If that were true, then the invaders at the capital were likely sent by this machine. The doctor's hologram continued his explanation. He told Kim Du Jin that this was the current state of the masterpiece he was so proud of. Pay attention here, because what appears on screen is totally different from the red sphere in front of him. If the footage showed the real teleportation device, then what exactly was this pulsing red thing? As Kim Du Jin wondered, the red container suddenly erupted with a dazzling, blinding light. The light washed over the caged corruptors, and in a flash, every single one of them vanished. Up on the surface, the Holy Knight also noticed something terrifying happening in the sky. It was a nightmare scenario he had never witnessed before. Countless corruptors were falling from the heavens, appearing across the kingdom. Meanwhile, Rias ran right into Professor Rodman. She instantly took a fighting stance and told him coldly to get out of her way. "You're in on this, aren't you?" Rodman just gave a chilling reply. "So, you finally figured it out. You've been poking around for a while, but it's too late. The first night plan is already a success. It was supposed to happen later, but your constant investigating forced me to move the timeline up. And that new teacher is going to be a problem too. My gut says he's just as annoying as your brother. He must have discovered this secret passage along with you, hasn't he? And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this fight ends. Alright, you and I are about to see if this big talker can actually back up those words. I have total confidence in my victory, because I have finally obtained this invincible power." Meanwhile, Phil and another student had quietly circled behind him. They were prepping a sneak attack, and Rias caught every movement. Professor Rodman was way too hyped up to realize what was creeping up right behind his back. When Phil finally struck, Rias let out a breath. That could have been a total bloodbath if they arrived late. But looking outside now, things had spiraled completely out of control across the city. They needed Kim Du Jin immediately. Kudo just reported seeing him enter this very area. Kudo looked incredibly stressed. She was worried if attacking a teacher like this was actually a good idea. Phil brushed it off. After all, Rodman never saw their faces anyway. They could just pin it on Rios later. Suddenly, Kim Du Jin rushed up from the basement. Phil warned him that the city had turned into a nightmare, and they desperately needed his strength. The corruptors from the lab were gone, meaning they were likely swarming the entire royal capital by now. They burst through the doors and saw it. Total chaos. The city was already falling apart. Hordes of corruptors were hunting humans down. Their power was just too much to handle. Civilians were helpless. To these monsters, people were nothing more than a free meal. Now pay attention to this massive beast in the city center. Things are about to get really ugly. It was aiming straight for the palace. Kim Du Jin realized he had made a massive mistake earlier. He should have smashed that teleportation device instantly. There was no time left for second guessing. That blast would level the whole palace. Thinking fast, Kim Du Jin grabbed a nano-machine injector from the laboratory. He jammed it into his arm. These nano-machines would give him a simplified version of that teleportation power. But there was a catch. The energy in the nano-machines was strictly limited. He could only warp once per day, and only to a spot he could see with his eyes. But the speed was extraordinary. It could instantly move Kim Du Jin to any location his eyes could reach. The injection hit his system, and Kim Du Jin vanished from thin air. You saw that too, right? Our guy just blinked in and deployed a shield that blocked a strike that should have leveled the area. Across the city, other monsters were still relentlessly chasing down anyone they could find. The intelligence department immediately sent word to the guildmaster about the unfolding disaster. Harding, the guildmaster of the kingdom, stood frozen by the window. He watched the disaster unfold across the royal city. He already knew how bad this was. The problem was, they were helpless. Every fighter they had was already deployed elsewhere. Even the Holy Knights who were still in town had probably already joined the fray. Worse still, half of the Holy Knights were currently away on missions and not in the royal capital. The enemy launched this assault specifically because they were gone. This was a planned massacre. If the Grand Commander was here, he might have been able to stop all of this. Suddenly, the giant corruptor's blast reached Harding's window. He hung his head, ready for the end. But then a stranger appeared out of nowhere and caught that terrifying beam. His officer screamed with excitement. That is the man from Konoha village I told you about. After parrying the blow, Kim Du Jin stepped back, charging up his own counterattack. A shockwave blasted from his hand, tearing through the air and shattering the monster's shoulder. The beast was just too big. Even a hit like that could not finish it off instantly. Worse, that teleportation had drained more energy than he ever expected. This fight was not going to be a walk in the park. Then, a sharp blade formed in his hand. Time to see if this giant could actually help him break a sweat. He swung a massive slash. The strike hit home. Kim Du Jin leaped into the sky, closing the distance on the beast. The corruptor was healing fast, but that was just the opening he needed. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are about to see Kim Du Jin use gravity control to literally erase his own body weight. Next, he bends atmospheric pressure to whip up a flight path, spotting 3 Hannisk Academy students trapped below. Moving like a blur, he slices 2 monsters in half, but those things won't stay dead for long. He needs to close the gap before they regenerate, but the corruptor's shoulder suddenly blasts 2 massive shockwaves. Aside from that initial burst, this ugly creature doesn't stand a chance against him. He has to end this fight fast, before it can charge up that devastating attack again. Now watch this. After clearing the smaller monsters, Du Jin finally reaches the giant corruptor, unleashing endless waves of sword aura the very second he makes contact with its body. The monster doesn't even have a second to breathe under this relentless, lightning-fast barrage. Watching from the sidelines, the Holy Knights can barely believe the power they're witnessing. Then, the sword in his hand transforms into a massive spear, which he plunges deep into the head of the giant corruptor. The resulting explosion sends a massive shockwave ripping through the heart of the royal capital. Just like that, the most dangerous corruptor is gone. And 3 days later, the entire royal city is busy with reconstruction. The chaos was massive, but thankfully, they managed to avoid a truly total catastrophe. Most of that success comes down to the incredible performance of the Holy Knights on the front lines. Truth is, after taking down that giant, Kim Du Jin had almost 0 stamina left in the tank. So, the remaining monsters were all handled by the Holy Knights, while the city started cleanup and even sealed off the academy for a full-scale investigation. Lecturers who conspired with Professor Rodman have already been tracked down and captured. Other staff members and even the principal are under suspicion, and they've been taken to the royal city for questioning. It seems like Du Jin only worked at the school for 1 day before the entire academy was forced into a break. But this chaos gave him a whole new challenge to think about. If enemies group up, he's got it. But scattering makes things much harder. To truly keep people safe from these corruptors, Kim Du Jin realizes he needs to reach a whole new level of strength. That means finding the other hidden laboratories the doctor left behind, but a sudden knock at his door interrupts his thoughts. It's the middle of the day, leaving him wondering who could possibly be looking for him right now. To Kim Du Jin's surprise, Rouse is standing outside in a beautiful dress, giving him an incredibly polite bow. Now, pay attention here, she shyly calls him master, which is totally wild since she should have gone home by now. Rouse explains that her brother sent her specifically to invite him over to their family estate. He wants to thank Du Jin for his help, but it sounds like there's a much more serious matter to discuss. Kim Du Jin never expected her to travel all this way just to find him, and her attitude has shifted so much she feels like a totally different person. Rouse speaks with total gravity, stating she's here personally on behalf of the powerful Walton family. Seeing her act so sincere, Du Jin decides to tease her, asking if she still thinks he's just an inferior species. Rouse calmly admits she's done some serious reflecting on her past behavior. She passionately declares that she should never judge by appearances and must respect everyone, no matter their status. From now on, she wants to stay by his side and learn everything she can under his guidance. Just then, Phil pushes the door open and walks in, telling him the dorms are too boring and she's here to explore. Before long, Rouse leads Du Jin and Phil to her family's estate, where 2 neat rows of servants stand ready to greet them. Leading the way are the siblings who only recently started working there, now acting as their personal guides. Seeing how polished they look, Du Jin can tell they've adjusted perfectly to their new life at the estate. The siblings mention that during the recent chaos, everyone at the manor stepped up to keep them safe. It's clear they're being treated well, and they've even heard rumors about how active Lord Kim was during the recent incident. Confused, Kim Du Jin asks them exactly where they could have heard stories like that. Rouse proudly admits she's been spreading the word of her master's legendary deeds as his loyal disciple. She tells the siblings they should follow his example, since they're of the same race as her master. It looks like Rouse has undergone a total transformation, and she now admires Kim Du Jin with everything she's got. And that's where we leave it, trust me. You and I are going to want to see who Orton introduces next. Meet Guildmaster Harding, the man in charge here in the royal city. Alright, you and I are diving into the aftermath of that massive crisis. Harding starts by thanking him for stopping that monster, saying the country would have fallen without him. First, please allow me to personally thank you for saving this entire nation. With that, Harding bows deeply to Kim Du Jin in gratitude, but our hero tells him there is really no need to be so formal. He claims he only took down the main boss. The Holy Knights were the ones who truly handled the messy aftermath. Harding continues, explaining that because of his heroics, the royal family themselves are demanding a meeting with Kim Du Jin. But before that happens, I need to understand one thing. Who exactly are you? Thanks to guild members in every town, there is almost no information in this kingdom that escapes my ears. Yet, when I looked into your past, I found absolutely nothing. That is when Orton joins in with a dead serious expression. I need to make this very clear as well. Here is where the pressure turns up. Orton demands to know where he is from and his true purpose for being here. No more avoiding the question. Hearing that, Kim Du Jin just gives a helpless shrug. To be honest, I was never actually trying to hide it. If you do not believe what I am about to say, then I will not even bother explaining further. Orton promises to believe him, no matter what. So, Kim Du Jin drops the bomb he is a human from 100 million years ago. Orton immediately remembers those old rumors he had heard before. The rumors said Kim Du Jin was the god of Koha village, the one sleeping behind that sealed door. While Guildmaster Harding falls into deep thought, Raya suddenly speaks up to defend her master. I believe him because Master was the one who opened that ancient sealed door inside the academy. And even without that proof, you both witnessed his overwhelming power with your own eyes. What shocks Orton most is seeing his cold and prideful sister call someone master. He has never seen her make an expression like that in his entire life. Kim Du Jin continues, explaining that he had been asleep deep underground for an incredibly long time. The only reason I came to the royal city was to gather information about this current era. Harding asks what kind of info he is after. Kim Du Jin reveals his targets. First, the corruptors. They likely existed 100 million years ago, way before I went into my long sleep. But they should not have survived this long. And according to him, this is all tied to the nano-machines. 100 million years ago, humanity sent nano-machines across the globe, which is why they are even in the air we breathe today. Back then, corruptors could only survive in heavily polluted zones. Since those nano-machines purify the environment, the number of corruptors should have naturally decreased over time. As for why they are still around now, I cannot say for certain. However, a friend left behind some info suggesting they have been continuously evolving throughout all these years. You and I can see the shock on Harding's face when he sees that information cube. He realizes it is a legendary ancient artifact. I cannot even figure out how this thing works. Kim Du Jin explains that is exactly why he is here to investigate. Along the way, he found a hidden lab left by that same friend, and there are more scattered across the world. I need to find them all. In short, my only goal in this era is to wipe the corruptors off the map. It sounds like an absurd story, but Harding is willing to believe it because they both want the same thing. Kim Du Jin then asks for their word that they will not go around telling anyone else about his true identity. Not long after, Kim Du Jin is dragged off to meet the royal family, looking completely helpless. What leaves him even more speechless is that they insist he change into this incredibly flashy, over-the-top outfit. Although the girls keep praising his new look, Kim Du Jin still feels totally uncomfortable in these clothes. Old Master Harding tells him they are meeting the king's eldest son, who is currently acting as the ruler. All Kim Du Jin has to do is play the part. He just prays he does not get dragged into another giant mess. Once they enter the palace, Harding is the first to speak. Your Highness, we have brought the hero who saved our nation. The prince responds flatly, telling him to rise and show his face. So this is the first Prince Tails. Kim Du Jin steps forward and bows, saying it is an honor to meet him. Trust me, the tension here is heavy. The prince looks down and offers thanks on behalf of his exhausted father. Let's dive in. You and I are about to see what happens when a smug prince picks a fight with the wrong main character. The prince gets straight to the point, demanding that Kim Du Jin serves him and obeys every single order until he literally collapses. This was definitely not the warm welcome our main character expected the second he came face to face with the imperial prince. It was a simple, insulting choice. If Kim Du Jin said yes, he would basically become this man's personal servant. Faced with a demand this insane, Kim Du Jin just stays silent, not giving the prince the satisfaction of a response. The prince turns cold, asking if he's deaf or just acting, until Guildmaster Harding steps in to try and smooth things over. Harding reminds him that the man was their invited guest, and forcing him into service like this just is not right. But Kim Du Jin doesn't need protection. He raises a hand and cuts Harding off right then and there. He tells the prince plainly that he has zero plans to stick around this country, and his academy job is only temporary. The prince's eyes narrow as he realizes he's being rejected, and he decides he's done playing the nice guy. Instantly, guards draw their steel and surround them as the prince orders his men to seize the traitor. Harding tries to move, but a knight blocks his path, making it clear that nobody is helping Kim Du Jin today. He demands to know why they're arresting a hero for no reason, but the prince just acts like the answer is obvious. Pay attention here, the prince is about to pull a massive lie out of thin air, claiming that Kim Du Jin is a traitor. He claims Kim was the one who actually opened that ancient door to release those hidden corruptors. He even twists the truth, saying the hero's rescue mission was just a staged performance to gain everyone's trust. Pretty convenient theory, don't you think? Harding is absolutely furious at the blatant lie, but Kim Du Jin doesn't even flinch with a dozen blades at his throat. The prince rubs his chin, pretending to be thoughtful, and says it would be a shame to waste such raw power. He offers one final out-pledge loyalty right now, and he'll overlook all of these fake charges. Since you've already said no once, what other choice do you really have in a room full of swords? Meanwhile, Orton knows this is all garbage because Kim Du Jin literally just arrived in the city a few days ago. Not to mention, Orton was the one who sent him to the academy, so the prince's timeline doesn't even make sense. That's when Orton realizes they've been walked right into a trap, and the security here was never about their safety. These aren't just guards, they are the elite commanders of the 3rd Legion. They are fanatically loyal to the first prince, and will do any dirty work he asks without a single hesitation. If Kim Du Jin refuses to bow, they were prepared to kill him from the very second he walked through those doors. The prince admits that anyone strong enough to kill a giant corruptor is far too dangerous to leave alone. He reaches out a hand, acting merciful by giving him one last chance to swear an oath and save his life. You and I can feel the tension as the entire hall falls silent, waiting for a response that will change everything. Kim Du Jin speaks with total calm, asking what a verbal promise even matters in a situation like this. He points out that he could just lie and run away later, so this is clearly just about the prince's ego. He openly wonders if this is just a control freak's power trip or if there's a darker motive behind it all. Before he can even finish, a guard shoves a blade against his skin, calling him a disrespectful little bastard. He screams that he'll execute him for insulting royalty, but he's about to learn a painful lesson. The second he moves, Kim Du Jin grabs the spear with such insane force that the soldier completely loses control. With zero effort, Kim Du Jin hoists the man clean off the ground using only his raw, overwhelming strength. He rips the weapon away and slams the guy into the stone floor so hard it probably shattered the tiles. Kim Du Jin looks them all in the eye and tells them he's curious to see what they'll actually try next. Orton sees the fire in his eyes and knows it's over, while an officer desperately tries to cast mental magic. He waits for the spell to work, but absolutely nothing happens in front of him. Panic sets in as he orders every soldier to attack, but these guys are no match for a monster like Kim. To him, these elite Imperial soldiers are even less of a threat than the corruptors he slaughtered earlier. He snatches a spear and clears the entire area in one single, massive sweep that sends everyone around him flying. And trust me, you and I are just getting to the good part. The prince is about to regret every single choice. Alright, you and I are about to watch a corrupt prince realize he messed with the wrong hero. After struggling for a tense moment, Orton finally draws the sword at his waist, but in that heartbeat, he has no clue what choice he should actually make. Meanwhile, Kim Du Jin has already decided to end this annoying trouble right now. In a flash, he vanishes. You think letting me move freely is dangerous, he taunts. That part is actually true. Hearing the voice, the prince panics and looks around wildly. But Kim Du Jin is nowhere to be seen. If I truly wanted to, tearing this entire city apart would be child's play. But I do not do that because I want to be an ally. I am here to protect the living. However, there are always exceptions to my rules. When it comes to the kind of evil that ruins people's lives, I will show no mercy. Now pay attention, because the prince is about to realize that voice is coming from right behind him. Kim Du Jin whispers directly into his ear. So tell me, Honorable Prince Tailshi, are you one of those villains? He had gone invisible to teach the royal brat a lesson. Our main character never goes easy on those who cast shadows over the innocent. The prince screams in a mix of rage and terror. You bastard, do you know what you are doing? Are you really trying to fight this whole nation alone? Kim Du Jin stays calm. I am only resisting your unreasonable demands. I am not intentionally opposing the country. If you acted like real royalty, I would actually show you some respect. If you followed your own country's laws and if your request were not so completely absurd, I would even be willing to help. But I am not so cheap that I would obey total nonsense. If you keep forcing this, then do not blame me for fighting back. But first, I have one question for you. Do you really believe everything will go your way? Or is there something else lurking behind all of this? Cold sweat pours down the prince's face as the palace doors suddenly swing open, drawing the attention of everyone in the hall. May I join this conversation now? You and I saw this coming. Lady Charlotte enters, already knowing exactly what went down. Lady Charlotte, why are you here? Orton finally relaxes and sheathes his sword. Thankfully, the princess arrived just in the nick of time. From here on, he can leave things to her. Princess Charlotte smiles as she looks at the two men. Looks like you were having quite a bit of fun, brother. Tailshi is shocked, wondering how she even got here. He immediately realizes that Orton prepared for this in advance. Charlotte puts on a troubled, disappointed expression. Brother, this is disappointing. If you invited the hero who saved the nation, you really should have invited me as well. She stares him down, especially since you are not father's representative at all. Tailshi grits his teeth in fury. Unfortunately, this man is no hero. He is a criminal who dared to threaten a member of the royal family. Is that so? Charlotte asks calmly. Tailshi claims he injured Captain Vasa of the 4th Holy Knight Order. Charlotte just asks if that happened because the prince was being rude. Tailshi's expression darkens. What are you talking about? Just look at what he is doing to me right now. He's trying to harm the first prince. Charlotte remains cool. Is he? He is simply standing behind you. Isn't that right, Mr. Kim? Our hero bows to the princess. Yes, that is exactly right, he replies. I was only standing behind him and asking a question. Charlotte turns her gaze back to Tailshi. Surely you would not call someone a criminal just for standing behind you. You would not say something so narrow-minded to the savior of our nation, would you? Then Charlotte returns the bow. Mr. Kim, allow me to state this once again. I will not demand your service. But if this nation is ever in trouble, would you help us as a friend? Kim Du Jin nods. Of course, I would gladly offer my strength. Thank you. Charlotte claps her hands. This is not the right place to talk. Let us move elsewhere. I will leave with my friends. Please step aside and show proper respect. Everyone immediately obeys her command. Prince Tailshi is absolutely furious, but the king favors Charlotte more, so he cannot openly pick a fight with her here. Kim Du Jin leaves with the princess and Orton. Once inside the carriage, Orton finally lets out a heavy breath. That really scared me. Why did you do that? Kim Du Jin answers that he was only testing the prince. Something about him felt off. I hope it was just my imagination. Then he looks at Charlotte across from him. Trust me, this is just the beginning of their alliance. All right, you and I are watching as Princess Charlotte formally apologizes for the hero's treatment and offers a much more respectful introduction once more. I am Charlotte, the second princess, and I truly hope we can remain great friends from here on out. Orton speaks up, asking why the prince would pull such a reckless stunt. Charlotte just sighs and shakes her head. His true motives are a mystery, but my brother has always been driven by a cold and ruthless ambition. She believes that once he takes the throne, he'll spark a massive war for territory, and he sees your very existence as a major obstacle to his plans. But don't you worry. From this second forward, I won't let that man lay a single finger on you. Now watch closely, she's already got Harding reporting this to the king, ensuring her brother can't touch our hero so easily anymore. And as for the throne, I have zero intention of ever handing that power over to my brother. She looks him in the eye and asks for his trust. But Kim isn't actually worried, he just decides to let things take their natural course for now. Right then, Orton pipes up, wondering where they are headed next and why a royal princess is still tagging along. Charlotte looks at Kim Du Jin, reminding him that after saving the entire nation, it would be far too rude to summon him without a proper reward. I have heard you've been staying at a local inn lately, is that right? Trust me, you'll want to see this gift.